Hello my friends and welcome back to another tutorial. I hope you're all keeping very well. In this lesson I'm going to try and go back to basic techniques because I got a lot of comments from viewers asking me could I just do something nice and basic for the beginner but make it nice as well at the same time, and try to explain perhaps some of my materials and what I use, that kind of thing. Do you understand? So I'm going to do that today, and I'm going to do a nice snow scene. Now, first of all, okay, we're working with oils. Traditionally, they're tinned with turpentine or some kind of thinners, linseed oil, that kind of stuff. You can buy water-based oil paints as well. I've used them in the past, but I didn't quite like them that much. The texture was just slightly different, but they're fine. They're fine for someone starting out, even the more advanced artist who's wishing to try those. Definitely try them. But I'm using traditional oil paints. They're thinned with a mixture. Now, I make this mixture myself. You can just use turpentine yourself if you wish. This is not normal, regular, genuine turpentine, okay? You can see that. It's just a very cheap thinners for thinning your paints. I mix with this some linseed oil. So what I do for my medium for painting is I will take maybe this much turpentine, okay, and I maybe put the rest in linseed oil. So like around 80-20, 80% linseed turpentine and 20% linseed oil. That just makes it nice and kind of oily. It makes the surface nice and slippery and oily. I use canvas. You can use canvas boards, stretched canvas. I use these stretched canvases here, okay? They're regular cheap canvases, but I prime them myself. I make my own primer with just a water-based undercoat. I tin it down and I add a little bit of PVA sealer into it. That just helps seal the canvas. So I give it one coat of that water-based undercoat. Then I let it dry and I give it a very quick sand with this, okay? Very fine sandpaper, just very lightly all over the canvas, and it makes it really nice and smooth. Now I need to sand this very quickly, okay? Just very quickly like this. Very quickly. And that's it, it's done. And it's lovely and smooth already. I can feel it. It's like a very fine linen kind of a canvas. It's really good. Palettes. I use this normally, this timber palette, okay, for painting for myself here when I'm painting at home. I use this all the time. I love using these wooden palettes. They have a lovely feel to them. But for tutorials here, I use these paper palettes, okay? They're just simple white shiny kind of paper. You buy them in a pad like this, okay? There's lots of sheets in them. You just paint on them, then you tear it off and put it in the bin when you're finished, and then you have a nice clean one underneath. I use these just for tutorials really, okay, so you can see a nice white clean palette. That's the only purpose. But I like using the wooden ones. They're really my favorite. So that's it. My brushes are very simple, flat, mostly flat, synthetic, okay? Very soft synthetic. I use stubby brushes like this, okay? They're lovely because they're small and you can cup them in your hand like this, and they're lovely for for lots of different techniques. They're very soft, but when they wear down slightly, you can get fantastic trees and bushes, that kind of thing. Look, they kind of stick out and they wear down. And for bushes and for dabbing bushes and snow on trees, which I'll show you in a moment. So I can send these to you if you want them, okay? Just let me know. But that's it. Lots of simple, pointy, cheap, pointy brushes. Look, they're soft, synthetic, pointy brushes. Just regular brushes. Nothing too expensive. Some tissue paper for cleaning, and that's it, really. Now, let's get stuck in and get a nice snow scene done here using nice simple techniques, okay? I want to show you just some nice basic techniques. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Okay, here we go. There's the photograph. Isn't that beautiful? A nice simple snow scene, but a lot of dark colours going on there in the background to give us lovely contrast. Now, I'm going to make it slightly wider on this canvas because I think it will look beautiful. So I'm going to just start with a very quick pencil sketch of that snow there, okay? See that snow line? Goes up like that and along like that, okay? Very, very simple. we could put a suggestion of like a house or something in there, just for a bit of interest, you know what I mean? You can put whatever you like into this, but I think just something simple like this would be really, really nice. Let me see now, let me just go back like that, okay? And down and across, then, like this. There's a lot of different types of roofs on this. I'm just going to keep it simple for now. Let me see now if I can just get this right here, because this, oh yeah, this one comes down like that. Just a very simple sketch. You know what now? I'm going to start again. Let me just rub that out with my eraser, if I have one there. I have it somewhere. There it is. Let's scrap that and let's do a simple little cottage, okay? A nice simple cottage, because I don't want to make it too difficult for you. So let me just say, let's go like this, okay, down like that, and across, down like that, okay? A simple cottage. I don't want to make it too complicated. We can add little things to it if we like. We could even add a little outbuilding to it or something like that. Keep it simple. We have a very light suggestion of some hills off in the distance there, so I'll just put a very light suggestion of those. And that's it. That's all I'm going to do, okay? Now take a large brush, any large soft brush, okay? A large flat brush. I'm going to stick it in my turpentine, just dampen it like that. And then I'm going to soak off the excess with my tissue, just like this, okay? And it's damp. Now the skies, it's a lovely subtle sky, isn't it? So let's go and start with a little bit of blue. I have, oh yeah, I'm going to tell you what colours I have, my apologies. I have titanium white, Naples yellow, a little cadmium yellow, some alizarin crimson, phaylo blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna, and some black, any black, okay? Now phaylo blue is very strong. In hindsight, I could have used cobalt, but you can use cobalt if you like. I'm just going to take a tiny amount of phaylo blue, because it's a very strong, rich colour, look. And you can see how wet this is now. I use very thin mixes. Then I take some white, and that thickens it right up, okay? And we only need to mix a tiny amount. We only have a little bit of blue here and there. So I'm going for a very light, soft blue. Now a little bit more of that. And it's really thin. Look at it. It's really thin. It's really watery. But you see, when I add white, it thickens it up. And then I want to take a hint of crimson into that. The tiniest hint of crimson. Let me just try that, okay? Now that's really thin. It's very watery. If you want to thicken it up, just add a little bit more white, a little bit more blue, and a little bit more pink. If you do, okay? I try to start with very thin layers of paint at the beginning. I just don't like putting lots of thick paint on a canvas too soon, because it gets very, very messy, and it's very difficult to control your paint afterwards. Do you understand? That's fine there now. Look, that's all I need. Just a little bit of that. Then I'm going to mix a nice grey, a pinky kind of a grey. And you know what I'm going to do actually? I'm going to switch brushes, because that's a very big brush. I don't think I need something that big. I'm going to switch down to a number 12, okay? A 12 flat, just a regular flat, but it's kind of splayed out because it's worn in, do you know what I mean? Let's make a nice warm grey. Let's take some black, I'll take some white, a good bit of white, look. And if you feel that's a little bit thick and kind of pasty, then just dip the corner of your brush into your turpentine, just a tiny amount, okay? And thin it bit by bit then. Don't just over thin your paint at the first go. Don't put too much in, just a little at a time. Now we have a nice grey there, don't we? So I want to warm it slightly. I want to add a touch of pink into this. I'll take a tiny amount of crimson. The tiniest amount is all you need, because it's really, really strong. And that's a little bit pink for me. So I'm going to take the tiniest amount of blue, just to cool it slightly. So we're going for a kind of mauve-y kind of a grey. Wouldn't you agree? Now let me just try this. And it's still quite thin. It's a very thin mix. I'm not putting on very, very thick clouds in this painting, okay? And I'm going to put, I'm just looking at the picture and I'm looking where those darks are. And I'm just going to suggest a hint of some of those darks just here and there, okay? And I can leave the whiter areas then for some nice bright clouds. Let me add another touch of blue. tiniest touch is all I need. And I'm going to put a hint of that over there, coming in. Okay. We've lots of kind of bright yellowy, whitey clouds in this, don't we? So I'm just going to pop a few of these in, just here and there. They're kind of floating around, isn't that right? These ones, I'll just kind of soften these up into that blue a little bit, just here and there. I'll put that across like that. And I think that's all we need to do with that. Okay, just soften some of these up as well into the blue. Just kind of dabbing the brush around, softening them in. You could even use a very soft powder brush or something. And look, you could even soften some of those in like that. With your soft brush. A soft makeup brush is fantastic for this kind of work, you see. There we go. Now, I'll give this a clean, and the way I clean my brushes is, I dip them in my turpentine once quickly, and then I just leave the tissue soak the paint off, look. Give it a little squeeze, a little rub. Do it again, once more, and that's pretty much my brush clean, okay? Don't swish your brush around the turpentine like that, because you will ruin your turpentine immediately. And see, my turpentine is still spotless. It's completely clean. Now, let's make a nice bright colour. One thing to be careful of is if you're going to mix yellows into this grey, you may end up with a kind of a greeny colour. So I'll start with a little white first. And I'm going to put a nice thick colour for this, okay? So a dry brush, some titanium white, a little Naples yellow. And I'm going to add a touch of crimson into this. Now you can keep your sky very simple if you want to just use white clouds on their own. You can. But I just want to get that type of a rich kind of a glow from the sky. Does that make sense? Now, lots of thick paint. Look, I don't have a lot of paint. I have a small little mix here just in one tiny little area. Okay? Now let me just go along and pop some of those white clouds in. I'm going to go in underneath these ones, okay? And you may pick up some of the grey, but that's fine. It's absolutely fine. Don't worry at all about that. That's what will help your painting come together, if you pick up some of those colours. Now, down here, I'm going to kind of soften it in with little circular motions, okay? Look, left and right, circular motions, and that just gives you a nice cloudy kind of effect. Nice kind of puffy cloud effect. You see? Go up here, you can go into that grey, kind of mix it in here and there, look. And it gives you a lovely misty kind of cloud up there off in the distance. Isn't that lovely now? And pick up a bit more, some white, some Naples yellow, and a little tiny amount of crimson. Okay. And you could go over there and go up into that cloud. Isn't this wonderful? Now I'm really enjoying this. A nice simple sky, but very effective. You can just put a simple blue sky across this if you like, okay? If you find this is a little bit too much for you, just put a simple blue sky with a couple of white clouds flying across the sky like that. Just nice and simple. I'll take some white in over here. So my white areas are keeping the cloud nice and kind of bright and vibrant, you see? Scraping it along your dry canvas, just scrape it right along. Go in here to this grey and soften the grey through the white. Okay, just here and there. Gives you a nice effect of a kind of a very distant cloud off in the distance. You see, isn't that lovely now so far? Now I've just given my brush a quick clean, and I'm going to go back into some white again, and a little bit of crimson, and a little touch of Naples yellow again. And I'm going to go up here and add some of that into the blue. You see? Coming down over the grey. And the technique is just very loose. Look, see? I'm just kind of dabbing it, rubbing it kind of side to side. Let me go up here. Look, I'll put one or two up here for you, just to show you. You see? Just kind of popping through that grey. Give your brush another wipe again. Up some Naples yellow, white, and a little crimson again. Now you can go warmer, slightly warmer if you like. Let's go slightly warmer out here. So the sun is coming across and catching the landscape, okay? Catching those clouds. I want to kind of get that feeling. So I'm only putting it on the right hand side of the cloud, okay? So on the right hand side here. And put a little bit down here, coming down. And that just adds a little touch of warmth into the sky. Okay? You don't have to do this now. If you're worried about doing this, you don't have to do it. I'm just letting the brush kind of dance around on the canvas, look. Okay, now I think that's a simple enough sky for this scene. And the reason I wanted to put this kind of pinky yellowy colour in is because we have that lovely colour at the back here, you see. So I just wanted to incorporate that into the sky. Now, soft brush, and let's just, look, soften all this together, make it nice and soft. A nice soft sky off in the distance. And I'm going to just fix this one here. I'm going to soften that in slightly as well. You see? Softening it all together. And I'm happy enough with that. I'm going to leave it at that. And I'm going to move on to this land down here. A nice soft, subtle colour for the land. I'm going to go with some Naples yellow. A tiny amount of thinners in this now. Okay? Tiniest little amount. Some white. I'm going to pick up a little crimson. And then I'm going to pick up a little burnt sienna, okay? Because I can see we have a lot of burnt sienna in that distant landscape off there in the distance, okay? I'm going to start with that. I'll take a little white and I might take a little hint of black. I'm going to just kind of dull it down ever so slightly with some black. So we have this soft kind of pinkish grey again in the landscape, okay? Wiggle your brush across very loosely, up and down, like that. Alright, pick up some more, go up here. Then I'm going to pick up some of this grey I have here, pop some of that in. And just go around your house very, very quickly. Now you don't have to put a house here, you can just leave it and put some trees. If you feel you don't want to tackle a little cottage. Let's pick up some more of that bluey grey, pop some of that in here, soften it in. So the aim of a painting like this is to incorporate all the colours as you come down. So what I would say to you is try to avoid putting completely different colours in to separate parts of your landscape, okay? Try to kind of pick up some of those sky colours, bring them down here, bring some of the colours from your snow into it, all that kind of thing. So you're using the same palette colours all the way through your painting, especially with a snow scene like this. So now, I have a nice simple, subtle background there, yes? I'm going to add some kind of a bluey, mauvey colour into this. I'll take some phthalo blue, a little tiny amount of crimson. I'm using very small amounts of paint in this, okay? Tiny, tiny amounts, because it's just a small canvas. You'll see a lot of painters going right in picking loads up with their palette knife and making big, huge puddles of paint. There's really no need. It's just a waste of paint, okay? Small mixes like this is all you need. I'm going to go over here and add some of this bluey colour. And what's this going to do? This is going to push everything off way into that distance. That's what the bluey colours will do. I'll take a bit of white, pop a little bit of white in there, soften that through. And that's going to give you some really nice distance in your painting. Okay? Then you can go a step further and you can even soften some of this into your sky. Look, just go along the line, follow the line, and very gently soften that in, just here and there. And it's giving it a lovely soft kind of misty effect. And it takes away all those kind of harsh lines. You could go right into the sky here. So this will give us the impression of a very misty kind of a sky coming down into the landscape. You see that? Isn't that wonderful? Absolutely wonderful. Now the next thing I'm going to do is start incorporating some impressions of tree lines off there in the distance, okay? With the same brush, I'm going to take some, let's see, burnt umber, a little amount of crimson, a tiny amount of black. Remember, just pick up tiny amounts until you get the colour that you want. I'll take a tiny hint of white into that. So we have lots of pinky kind of browns going on over here, don't we? So let's just suggest, with my brush, okay, splayed out like this, I'm going to go along and just dab, 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 look. Create a nice line of trees. Well, it's not, you're not actually painting trees, you're just creating the impression of a line of trees off in the distance there, okay? I'm just keeping my brush straight like this and I'm dabbing it kind of up and down, here and there. Nice and simple, look, just keep it simple. And you can soften that into the background as well. Just dab it very lightly, very gently off in the distance. And already we're creating some little rows of trees there, way off. Isn't that lovely? Now I'm going to make some prominent ones. I'm going to just turn my brush like that. Then I'm going to take some more sienna and start adding more sienna into those trees. Now, the next thing I want to do is take some burnt sienna with cadmium yellow and some crimson, okay? And I want to just kind of soften some of that colour through here. Bring it down. Because I can see we do have some very nice light catching the landscape down here, don't we? We just pull this across. Okay, just like so. And you could actually even use a fan brush for this. Let's get our fan brushes and try it. Shall we try it? Let's dampen our fan brush and let's get some burnt umber, a little crimson, and a little cadmium burnt sienna. Okay. Just with the tip of the fan brush, let's go along and dab some of these in here, okay? Now I'll take a little amount of turpentine in this just to help the paint flow that little bit better, okay? More sienna. Just dab that across there, right? All the way across, look. And then let that soften. Let's get some Naples yellow as well. And let that soften off into those distant hills, okay? Just very gently allow that to kind of disappear off into the distant hills. And bear in mind, a lot of this will be covered by these black trees here in the front as well. Okay? So don't forget about that. You don't have to get this absolutely perfect. A lot of this will be covered. I'm going to put some cadmium yellow and a tiny hint of crimson in here and there. I want to suggest the light from the landscape just catching this here and there, okay? And then it stops, you see? And perhaps a little bit up at the back here. And then I'll go back into my sienna with a little hint of crimson, maybe a hint of Naples yellow. See, I'm just mixing up different colours, but I'm using the same colours all the time. The same 2 or 3 or 4 colours, okay, as I go along. And that's, I think, the trick to tying everything together. Do you understand? Pick up some burnt umber, go in here with some burnt umber. And the fan brush then just gives you that lovely rough effect of just a rough landscape off in the distance. Okay, I'm going to just give my fan brush a quick clean. Okay, and I'm going to mix a nice mauve. I'm going to take some blue, some crimson, and some white. And I'm going to put a nice mauve in here and there as well. And the mauve just helps give you that kind of snowy, wintry sort of feeling in the landscape. And it cools the colours down slightly as well. Let me soften that off. We'll go right up into that line there now off in the distance and soften them right up into those hills, okay? I'm going to stop at that just for a moment and just sit back and take a look. Okay, let's put in some of these trees at the front here. Nice and simple. Nice simple trees. I'm going to just clean my flat brush, give that a good clean. And I'm going to suggest some clumps of dark trees with that brush, okay? So I'm going to just take a flat brush like this, take some black, a dry brush, some burnt umber, a little, let's take a little crimson in this. So we have a very blacky, already browny kind of a colour, okay? On the tip of your brush. And let's go up over our cottage. Let's suggest some of those trees like that, look. Now, take your time with this because that colour underneath is very thick. You can leave it dry if you like. But I'm just going to suggest some of these lovely dark clumps of trees. I'm going to put another one here, okay? So you can see I'm just creating the shape of the tree with the tip of my brush. And you can even see that it's softening into the background as well, which is lovely. That gives you that lovely soft, distant effect. Take some burnt umber again. Let's get some crimson. Let's get some slightly more reddy ones here and there. As it comes down to the bottom, I'm going to just add black on its own, okay? Because I want it really dark down here at the very end. And I'm kind of thinking ahead because we have this lovely white, this bright snow here. So a nice dark colour down at the bottom here will give us really lovely contrast against this white snow later on. So just take lots of black on your dry brush and just dab it there. Soften it up here and there. Okay? So it's not just a solid line then, you see? It's kind of disappearing and it's softening upwards into that background as well. Okay? There we are, you see? Just like that, nice and simple. Let's take some burnt umber. And I'm going to put some burnt umber up here like that, just going up into the sky. Suggesting a nice tall tree up there. And that's the great thing about using these flat brushes, because you can see the way they're kind of splayed outwards, and that gives you that lovely soft edge on the trees, and a lovely, well, not soft, but a very rough, bushy effect on your trees, you see? And it really does make life much easier. I'll take some black and a little crimson and a nice dark colours just down the bottom here. Okay, so I'm not copying the landscape exactly. Now I'm going to put this down and let's see now. We could put some snow on these if we wanted to, but I'm not. I am going to paint my little cottage, okay? And I'm going to zoom in so you can see me paint my little cottage. There we are. I'm going to take a very small flat brush, look. A nice small flat brush. And I'm going to put a nice snowy roof. Now I'm not going to use pure white, okay? I'm going to warm it slightly with a tiny amount of crimson. Okay, just a tiniest little amount of crimson and a tiniest amount of Naples yellow. And I'm going to put that very light, almost like a pink. Paint my roof in that colour first, okay? And pull your brush strokes down in the direction of your roof, like this, okay? Don't be tempted to go sideways with this, just keep it nice and simple. And let's pop a little bit of white on the little, let's just imagine there's a little extension. There, okay? Now you can see the way I picked up some of the colour, that's absolutely fine. I'll pick up a little bit of purple actually and pop a little bit of purple in here. A little bit there. Because what you can do is if you want to take a very small palette knife, okay, look, let's try the small palette knife. Grab a little bit of white on your palette knife and pull in that direction again. And that will give you a nice thick snowy effect, but leaving some of the colour underneath, you see? Isn't that wonderful? Now I'm going to go down and put in a nice browny shadowy colour. I'm just taking some of the dark grey blue that I have and I'm going to put that in here. Like so. Again, don't be too fussy with this, just keep it simple. And I'm going to maybe add a little bit of black just in under here, in under the eave of the roof. Soften it down, okay. You could add a little bit of the light blue down here. And this is just creating some tone, different tonal values in the back of the house. Then you could add a nice lighter colour to the front. Let's just take some of that mauve. I'm just keeping this simple just for you, okay? Just so you can just get an idea of how to do a basic scene like this. You can add your own colours to this if you wish, okay? I just want to keep it simple. I'm going to put the other side in a slightly warmer colour. And pick up some of that warm colour, bring it over here, okay? That ties everything together again. Now the next thing I'm going to do is take a very pointy brush and let's add a little bit of detail to this, okay? Let's just take some black and I'm going to put a nice dark line under that eave there, under here. And let's put a nice dark line under here. It doesn't have to be completely straight, you see? Give it a little wiggle. Let's take some burnt umber and put in some windows. Let's suggest a window there and a window there. Just pop them in quickly, they don't need to be perfect, okay? And let's pop a little door with some black. So a nice simple little cottage in a snow scene. Now put a little bit of black across the side of the window here. And it's just a case of just adding some little suggestions of some details here and there, okay? You see, it's just telling the viewer that there's little things going on. And it's just not a flat surface, okay? So you can see, look, just add little bits of marks, little darks here and there. Let's give it a chimney. And let's just put a bit of black on the back of the chimney like this. Clean the brush. And let's take some white and put it on the front of the chimney. Like that, okay? Again, side of the roof here, a little bit of snow, and I'm just going to leave it at that. It's simple but effective, alright? Simple but effective. Now I'm going to take the same brush, dampen it slightly, and I'm going to mix a nice dark colour. So take some thinners in this now, make it nice and watery. Some black with some burnt umber. It's mostly black, to be quite honest. And I'm going to suggest a couple of trees. So I won't go right in front of the cottage, okay, because I like the cottage. I'll just go here, start upwards, and let's put a nice dark tree coming over the cottage, okay? And when you're painting branches like this, it's like a lot of little snakes, that's what I'll say. Lots and lots of little snakes coming off each other. And the trick with this is to not have very thick paint underneath, and that's why I like to work in thin layers, especially for my skies. So this paint will then stick and it doesn't just become a big mess. Does that make sense? Now give it a nice thick trunk at the very bottom, because it needs to support all these branches. So look, don't be shy, put a nice thick trunk in there and let them taper off into a point and just kind of disappear. You can, if you wish, just put little flicks here and there, look, tiny, tiny flicks. And just keep going until you have a nice big bushy kind of a tree with lots of twigs and branches sticking out here, there and everywhere. You can do that. Or you could use your fan brush and just very lightly dab some foliage on that. So we have one tree, okay, that's one. Let's do another couple. I'll go into just black now for the rest of these. I'm going to put a couple of swirly ones around the back, and that's very wet where I've done my fan brush work. You could leave it dry if you wish. But look, I'm just kind of flicking some black through there, here and there, just to suggest bushes and all sorts of little trees and stuff like that popping up. We will get some white snow on these, okay, so don't worry, we will get some snow on these. I'm going to put a couple of nice ones up here. Being careful not to put very, very thick branches up high, okay, because they get thinner the higher up they go. But I'm just keeping it loose, I'm just making a nice little impression. That's all I want. A nice simple impression of a little scene. A simple scene that you can try at home. Put a couple into this one. A couple of flicks out here and there, you see, just giving it the suggestion of a nice thick tree in there. I will pop some white on some of these, okay? Not to worry. And, okay, yeah, let's leave it at that and let's get some white. Now, nice thick white on the tip of your brush, alright? Thick white paint. And let's just go, let's just imagine there's some snow on this one here. You see, I'm just allowing it to sort of be dragged off of the tip of my pointy brush. And it's just hit and miss, you see. I'm not painting every single brush stroke absolutely perfect. It's a very hit and miss kind of a brush stroke. Just allowing the brush to dance around. Let's put a couple nice ones here. Does that make sense? So you could just keep going along like this if you want. And just adding little dabs of white. Clean your brush every 2 or 3 brush strokes. And that just gives you nice fresh white paint, okay? Isn't this lovely? Let's put a couple of nice ones in around here. So the white against the dark, then you see, that's why I put that very dark colour down here. So I knew then I would be putting white on this later on, and the white would stand out. Now, that's one way. You could just go along like that, or you could take this other brush that we used earlier, that little flat brush, or a bigger one or a smaller one, whichever you prefer, and you could just take some white on the tip of that and suggest some snow. I'm just very lightly tapping some snow over some of these. You see? You could do it like that and let that soften down. That's just another way of creating little bushes of snow here and there. Let's put a couple around here like that. You see, I'm only just suggesting very lightly a little bit of snow on the trees. You could go up here and pop a little tiny amount on these. Okay, little tiny amount on that. And how's that looking so far? You see, so far we've created this beautiful little scene with a cottage. Now I do want smoke coming out of that. Would you like to see some smoke? I'd like to see some smoke. I'm going to take a small little brush, which is very sort of tapered. You can see that. It's not completely flat. I'm going to take that. I'm going to take some grey. Let's go for some grey. Alright. A tiny amount on the brush. Tiny amount of grey. And I'm going to just go around in little circles and bring that grey up, left and right, up into the sky, look. And it's going to kind of disappear off into the sky. So we've lots of smoke coming out and disappearing off into the landscape, you see. I'm barely touching the canvas now when I'm doing this. And already we have some beautiful smoke coming out of a chimney. Isn't that just wonderful? Simple. On to this. And for this I'm just going to keep it nice and easy, okay? I'm going to zoom back again now for you. There we go. And I'm just going to mix a nice light, maybe a nice mauve. Let's take some white, a tiny amount of turpentine, tiny amount of pink, tiny amount of blue. I think I'll go with that. It's a nice kind of a pinkish kind of a mauve colour. Go up into that line there, look. Pull some of that along. And you can even pull that black down into your snow as well. Let's get some fresh white. Put some nice fresh colour along in front of the cottage there. So I'm picking up the colours, you see. I'm picking up some of those blacks and those browns. And it's all merging together nicely, you see. I think that's the secret to a nice composition. Allowing your colours to integrate into each other as you paint through your painting. So allowing colours from your sky or your background to come into your foreground. I think that's a very good idea with any painting, because it ties your painting together and it just makes your painting feel more natural, I think. I'm going to just rough that up just a little bit there, okay? Just at that line. There we go. I'm going to pull some of that darker colour down, across like that. And look, even allow some of that colour to come down around the front as well. You see? Isn't that lovely? Now the next thing I'm going to do is take my palette knife, and I'm going to take some white on my palette knife, okay? Just a bit of white on its own, and I'm going to kind of drag a little bit of white across here and there. And the point of this is just to try and create a little bit of texture on the snow, that's all. You can use your brush if you like, and just drag some nice white paint across, but I like to use my palette knife every now and again. Just, you see, it creates a wonderful texture. perhaps a little bit down here. Coming down and into the painting, okay? There you see. A nice simple idea, but it works. Just along the bottom and the front here. And my friends, I'm happy with that. The last thing I want to do is sign my painting, okay? Let's just give it a quick signature. And I have a frame I want to put on it. And there's one other thing I'd like to do. I think if you know me by now, it's a bird. Little bird flying across the landscape. You could add people into this, you could add a little fence, extra trees, you could do a lot. So let me just stick a frame on this first now and we'll take a look and see. We zoom in and we'll have a proper look. And look at this. And doesn't the frame make all the difference? Isn't that just fantastic? A simple scene, it only took us 40 minutes. Isn't that amazing? Let me zoom in and show you what we have done. And there we are, my friends. Nice, simple landscape. Just keep it simple. Remember what I said, just keep it simple. Try not to kind of focus too much and go in too close and go in, try and get all the details too perfect. Just let your brush dance around on the canvas here and there, okay? It looks much more natural and it looks more like a painting rather than, you know, trying to get a photograph of the scene. Let me just turn this down. So there. I hope that's helped you in some way with your painting and learning about just simple basic techniques and keeping it simple and getting a lovely result at the end of it, okay? Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't done so, please do so because you're missing so much fun and easy oil painting techniques. So send anything that you have on to me for review, or if you'd like any hints or tips on your paintings or advice, please do just email me. It's stephenconway12@gmail.com or stephenconwayart@gmail.com. You'll see the links in the description below, okay? If you'd like to get my stubby brushes, those nice little flat brushes, just take a look in the description or just email me again. Follow me on Facebook, and you can also pop over to Patreon if you'd like to support me there as well. There are lots more extra tutorials for you, and it's just a way of supporting me, so I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Right, I'm going to get a cup of tea and I'm going to just enjoy looking at this for a while. I'm very happy. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week with another tutorial, and God bless.